Hey guys, tonight we're drifting thousands of feet above sea level, way up in the dizzying thin air of the Andes Mountains. The stars blink a little slower here. The wind whispers like it knows a secret it might just tell you if you're quiet enough. But more importantly and unexpectedly, tonight's story involves guinea pigs. Yes, those fuzzy, squeaky, awkwardly adorable creatures you may have seen in pet stores or in awkward birthday parties for kids whose parents don't allow dogs. Except, here in the ancient Inca Empire, they weren't exactly pets. They were heaters, warmers, the original wearable tech, but fluffier now. That might sound cozy. A pile of small, warm animals snuggled against you on a cold stone night. Cute, right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's no HVAC system in a 15th century Andean home, no Netflix and blanket night, just stone walls, thatched roofs, and a quiet agreement between humans and rodents that goes something like, I won't eat you yet, just keep my feet warm. You're about to enter a world where climate, culture, survival, and rodents collide, a world where history isn't just boring, it's warm, fuzzy, and slightly squeaky. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe it, only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're listening from. What time is it there? What's the temperature outside? Drop a comment below or just whisper it to the guinea pig you didn't know you needed. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking down a cobbled path at an altitude where most modern humans would need supplemental oxygen. The air is so thin, every breath feels like you're sipping through a paper straw. Your hands are stiff with cold, buried in a heavy woven poncho, and your feet, well, they've made peace with being numb forever. You turn into a small stone house, its walls low, its thatched roof thick, like a hedgehog trying to hibernate. There's no light inside, just the flicker of fire from a clay hearth, and a smell that's part smoke, part soil, let's be honest, guinea pig poop. You step inside and dozens of tiny eyes gleam back at you. Not ghosts, guinea pigs, dozens, maybe hundreds. They scurry across the floor like fuzzy wind-up toys on a mission. And something odd happens. You feel warmer. The heat radiating from these tiny bodies is real. Just a few degrees, but in a stone house perched high in the Andes, where nights can be colder than a forgotten pint of ice cream in an unplugged freezer, a few degrees means the difference between sleep and frostbite. The Inca didn't have heaters. They had guinea pigs. You sit by the fire, and a wrinkled old woman hands you a warm cup of corn tea. Next to her is a giant woven basket filled with snuggled, softly chirping guinea pigs. She smiles and says something in Quechua. You don't understand, but her tone is warm enough to guess. They're good company. In your head, you picture a mighty Inca warrior, armed with spear and shield, feathered headdress flowing, and under his poncho a guinea pig tucked neatly into a cloth pocket like a live hand warmer. Sounds absurd, but it's probably true. And, of course, you wonder, how did one of the greatest empires in the Americas come to depend on tiny squeaky mammals to survive winter? How did a creature best known today for chewing on celery become a strategic part of Andean survival? The answer starts right here in the traditional Inca home. Thick walls, thatched roof, and no cracks to waste heat. But what truly kept the place warm wasn't the architecture, it was life itself. The Inca didn't raise big livestock like cows or pigs. Buffalo, I've never seen one, but guinea pigs, they could be raised indoors, easy to breed. They ate scraps, no cages required. They knew where home was. And when winter hit, families gathered them close, tucked them into baskets, curled them near sleeping mats. Heat accumulated, a breathing blanket with whiskers and attitude. You hear a soft rustle, one guinea pig crawls under your poncho. You want to shriek, but then, warmth. A strange, almost guilty comfort trickles down your spine. It's not heavy, just soft, and the warmth, well, it's kind of perfect. Historians still debate whether guinea pigs were merely coincidental cuddle buddies or deliberately bred to be mini hitters. Some stone carvings suggest winter offerings of guinea pigs to the gods as literal sacrifices, to chase away the cold, and you're just getting sleepy. The little animals chirp quietly like lullabies, the fire fades, wind howls through the thatch, but in here, wrapped in squeaks and straw, you feel okay. Not because of the tea, not because of the fire, but because of hundreds of tiny hearts beating in rhythm, like a symphony of survival. You wake to a quiet so full it hums. There's no traffic, no clicking phones, not even the beep of a microwave reminding someone their tea is long cold. Just the faint scratching of tiny claws on stone. You blink into the warm breath of a house that hasn't seen central heating ever, and realize one of your new rodent roommates is still curled up near your ankle. It gives a sleepy chirp, stretches a little, and scampers back toward the hearth. You're in Cusco now, or what once was Cusco, capital of the Inca Empire, a city shaped like a puma, filled with temples, gold, and oddly polite guinea pigs. Outside, the morning sun slices through the chill like lemon juice on a paper cut, harsh, unexpected, but it wakes you up. You step out into the stone alleyways, smooth from centuries of sandals. There's movement everywhere. Women with bright shawls carry baskets of produce. Children chase each other with flutes in hand. And yes, guinea pigs, dashing between legs, sitting in crates, sleeping on shelves. It's like someone left the Kai setting on high and never turned it off. Your guide today, a man with a feather tucked behind his ear and hands rough as river rock, waves you into a shaded plaza. He speaks in soft Quechua, but his gestures say, "Come, eat," and you do. You'll lead into a low building with smoke curling from a hole in the roof. Inca ventilation at its finest. Inside, the air smells of herbs, wood, and something roasted, with a hint of fur. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat. A woman places a wooden plate before you, carved with dancing condors and jaguars. On it, glistening in the light, a whole guinea pig, roasted golden limbs, outstretched like it just finished a yoga session and fell asleep in child's pose. The skin crackles. The eyes are still there, watching. Thesis qui checked other the Incan delicacy still enjoyed in modern Peru, and apparently also your breakfast to pause. The idea of eating something that warmed your feet 6 hours ago is unsettling. It's like eating your electric blanket. But around you, people dig in happily. They eat nose to tail, praising the crispy ears and tender belly. You wonder if this is a test, some ancient rite of passage. If you don't eat it, do you get kicked out of the Andes? You pick up a leg. The meat is dark, gamey, and surprisingly rich, somewhere between rabbit and duck, but with a faint herbal hint, like it spent time lounging in oregano. It's good, it's weird, and it's humbling. You're told that in Incan times, guinea pigs weren't just heaters and snacks. They were wealth. They were status. The nobility had hundreds. Some say priests even decorated them in gold leaf during rituals. Not exactly your average pet store shelf life. But here's the wild bit. Some archaeologists believe certain households had a dedicated Kai room, a literal guinea pig nursery, kept warm with sun-baked stones and filled with soft straw. And when the nights got especially cold, families would lie down with their Kai, not above them in blankets, but surrounded by them, a sea of twitching noses and quiet warmth. It wasn't weird, it was life. The lines between survival and companionship blurred like fog over the Andes. A creature could be comfort one night and dinner the next. Try explaining that to a modern child cradling their pet guinea pig named Snip. And of course, historians still debate how central guinea pigs were in ceremonial life. Were they sacred, sacrificed? Did they ever sit in the laps of kings? Some Spanish records describe rituals where Kai were painted with dyes and offered to gods during solstice festivals. One monk wrote, the beasts were treated as messengers, then consumed, which is the ancient equivalent of giving your mailman a party hat, and then baking him into a casserole. You're pulled out of your thoughts by a sudden burst of laughter. Across the plaza, a group of children have tied tiny reeds around a guinea pig's middle and are watching it pull a miniature cart. One yells something that probably translates to faster. Captain squeaks. The pig does not oblige. It wobbles, off in a direction that clearly doesn't care for human agendas. The sight is absurdly joyful. This isn't a symbol of poverty or desperation. It's a culture that embraced smallness, that learned to thrive in extremes with humor, resilience, and rodents. The guinea pig wasn't beneath them, it was with them. You wander further through Cusco, past temples once plated in gold, past stones so precisely cut they fit together without mortar, stones that have survived earthquakes better than most modern buildings. You run your hand along a wall and feel the chill of centuries. And then, from a window, you hear it, that unmistakable high-pitched chirrup. You peek in. Another home, another basket of fluff, another family sharing space with warmth on forepaws. You think of your own heating bill, your drafty windows, your sad electric blanket with its dying coil, and for a moment, you envy them. There's something primitive and perfect about it. The Inca didn't conquer half the Andes with brute force alone. They adapted. They observed. They knew that strength didn't always come from jaguars or obsidian blades. Sometimes, it came from something small, squeaky, and determined to nap under your poncho. By the time you return to your lodging, the sun's slipping behind the mountains like a tired god. You sip warm maize beer, your belly full of Kai and questions. One of the guinea pigs from earlier finds its way back to your side. It pauses, sniffs your boot, and flops against it like a contented sentient sock. You smile. Not everything in history needs to be grand to matter. Sometimes the heart of an empire is only 6 inches long and covered in fur. The door creaks as you enter, but it's not a creak like in horror movies. It's more of a slow, wood sigh, like the house itself is settling back into place. Inside, the light shifts. You're not in a museum or a replica built for tourists. This is the real thing. A traditional Inca house. Stone walls, earth floor, roof stitched from thick ichu grass, the kind that grows at altitudes so high, even clouds get nosebleeds. You take a few steps inside and immediately feel the difference. The world narrows, sounds dull, smells intensify, damp straw, smoky, ash, a faint sweet tan musky blend that can only be described as guinea pig in residence. The temperature hovers in that middle zone, not warm, not cold, but made bearable by something alive and breathing. Literally. The room is one space. No bedrooms, no hallways, no awkward guest bathroom you never use, just one room, shaped for survival. In one corner is the hearth, a low clay ring surrounded by ash and soot. You're told it's called a fogan. There's no chimney. The smoke curls up and out through a hole in the thatch. Or, if it's feeling shy, it just hangs around and paints the ceiling black over time. Charming. Near the walls are sleeping mats, layers of straw, wool, maybe a hide or two. But what catches your eye are the motion sensors at your feet. Except they're not sensors, they're guinea pigs. Everywhere. Under mats, behind pots, tucked into the stone niches that once held sacred idols. It's like someone spilled a bag of furry marshmallows and never cleaned up. At first, you think, this can't be sanitary. Then, you think, wow, it's kind of genius. Here's how it works. These stone walls, they're thick, heat-retaining thick. Once warmed by sunlight or fire, they slowly release warmth through the night. The thatch roof insulates without suffocating. And the guinea pigs, they fill the room with ambient warmth like biological space heaters, and they're mobile, separately. They come with little feet and zero judgment. You crouch by the hearth, tracing your fingers across the ash. A woman squats beside you, grinding corn on a stone slab. She doesn't speak your language, but you don't need words. Her motion is steady, rhythmic, the same way her grandmother moved, and her grandmother's grandmother. Behind her, a child shares a chunk of sweet potato with a guinea pig. One bite for me, one nibble for you. This isn't pet ownership. This is cohabitation. And get this, the guinea pigs aren't just there by accident. In Inca design, homes weren't sterile, isolated places. They were ecosystems, and every element had a role. Even the poop. Yes, the poop. You hear the sound of scraping. In a side nook, a man gathers dry guinea pig droppings into a woven tray. You think it's cleaning time, and yes, kind of, but he doesn't toss it. He saves it. Later, it'll fertilize his maize field. Or, if dried just right, it can even be burned for heat. That's right, these creatures provide warmth twice, before and after digestion. Talk about efficient. You walk around slowly, avoiding tails and noses. In one corner there's a pile of smooth river stones. You're told they're sun-heated each morning and brought inside in the evening, a kind of primitive thermal battery. The guinea pigs love curling up around them, forming little donut shapes of fuzz and contentment. And in the sleeping corner, that's where things get interesting. There's no division between humans and guinea pigs. Come nightfall, everyone shares the same space. You picture yourself lying down wrapped in thick wool, and suddenly, bloop, a little warm body scoots under your knee. Another tucks near your elbow. They nestle in like fuzzy sandbags. You might flinch, you might giggle, but you wouldn't be cold. Some even say that babies were taught to fall asleep to the soft squeaking and shuffling of guinea pigs, a natural white noise machine with whiskers. It makes sense. If you've ever tried to sleep through the honk of a goose or the screech of a jungle bird, guinea pigs are practically lullabies in comparison. And again, as always, scholars still debate how much of this was design and how much was necessity. Were guinea pigs just the only option? Or were the Inca making subtle, smart choices based on what worked best in a brutal climate? Either way, the results speak for themselves. In the thin, dry air of the high Andes, survival wasn't about conquering nature. It was about folding into it, becoming part of it, letting it into your home, squeaks and all. You pause near a low shelf. It holds dried herbs, a few clay figurines, and a sleeping guinea pig with one paw over its nose. It twitches slightly, dreaming of who knows what. Maybe running through a field of warm quinoa. Maybe becoming a tiny Inca god. Maybe just more sweet potato. You kneel beside it, and without really thinking, you match your breath to its tiny chest rise, fall, rise, fall. It's a rhythm older than clocks, older than borders, a pulse shared across time. Outside, the wind howls across the mountains. Inside, it's just you, a fire barely alive, and a room full of fuzzballs doing their part. Not because they were trained, not because they were tamed, but because someone, hundreds of years ago, realized this weird, warm, squeaky creature might just be the thing that saves us from the cold. And it did, night after night, winter after winter. In a house made of stone and straw and quiet genius. You're climbing now, higher than you thought possible. Higher than common sense suggests is reasonable for a creature with squishy lungs and no llama to carry the groceries. Every step crunches on rock and frost. The wind doesn't just blow, it presses. It seems to have fingers, cold, persistent fingers that find their way through seams and sleeves and intentions. There's no gentle slope anymore, just a steady incline that makes you question your life choices, your fitness app goals, and your decision to bring canvas shoes. The air grows thinner, not just in oxygen, but in sound. It steals your thoughts, stretches them out, makes them echo inside your skull. And still people live here. You pass terraced fields, ancient steps carved into the mountainside, defying gravity and erosion. Potatoes, quinoa, maize, crops that shouldn't grow this high, but do, like stubborn green middle fingers to altitude itself. Your guide stops, kneels by a patch of dry grass, and lifts a small stone slab. Beneath it, a tiny hollow, a heat trap, a cache of CUI. Not a joke. You're looking at an outdoor guinea pig retreat. A warm hidey hole where the animals can burrow away from the wind and re-emerge when called. You reach your hand in cautiously, like someone testing if the bathwater is booby-trapped, and feel a soft, faint warmth, living warmth, the kind a heating pad tries to mimic but never quite nails. This is where the story starts to make even more sense. You're above 12,000 feet now, maybe higher. At this altitude, nights don't just cool, they attack. The cold wraps around your bones. It lingers under your fingernails. It makes your teeth feel like glass marbles. In these conditions, fire helps, but fire eats fuel. And there aren't a lot of forests growing up here. No oak logs to throw on, no gas lines, just dry scrub, dung patties, and creativity. That's where guinea pigs come in. Again, in these remote, frostbitten villages tucked between clouds and cliffs, kaya more than food. Their infrastructure, renewable, mobile, warm-blooded insulation. A family might raise dozens in their home, letting them scurry freely by day and cuddle in clusters by night. Not in cages, not in sheds, in the house, in the bed, under blankets, sometimes on faces. Imagine waking up with a guinea pig snoring gently on your cheek. Now imagine being grateful for it. You hear a story from an elder, a man whose face is carved by weather and years. He tells of winters so brutal, even the alpacas seem to wear scarves. Whole villages huddled in stone dwellings, fire barely smoldering, and the only heat source that didn't vanish overnight. The Kai. They made tunnels under our blankets, he says with a smile. We didn't need fire, just enough squeaks to fill the dark. You chuckle, and then he gets serious. But you had to care for them, keep them clean, talk to them. If they trust you, they sleep close. If not, they move to the walls. You realize there was an etiquette to this warmth sharing, a fuzzy contract, maybe even a hierarchy. Who gets which Kai? How many per person? Did someone invent a pillow pyramid scheme based on who got the plumpest pig? The logistics are mind-boggling. You picture a cold night, a grandmother wrapping her feet in cloth, tucking to guinea pigs near her ankles like fuzzy slippers. A child rolling over and murmuring, "Don't fart, Pablo," only to discover Pablo is a guinea pig, and also the warmest part of the blanket. A couple arguing over whose Kai snores louder. And yet it worked. These weren't emergency solutions. This was the system. The Inca, masters of stone and sky who built roads over mountains and cities on cliffs, still knew the value of a tiny mammal with a body temp that rivals a cup of cocoa. Some archaeologists suggest that the placement of guinea pigs in homes wasn't random either. They were often encouraged to cluster near the hearth, near clay ovens, even under food storage platforms, places that trapped heat. The Kai weren't just body, they were heat batteries, plugged into the coldest corners. Others note that in villages even higher than this, above 14,000 feet, guinea pigs were sometimes housed in shallow pits beneath sleeping areas, like miniature hot water basins. The floor stayed warm, the people slept better. The pigs squeaked their complaints when rolled over. And yes, scholars are still arguing about it. Some claim it's an over-romanticization, that we're projecting coziness onto survival, that maybe, just maybe, the Inca weren't cuddling guinea pigs, they just lived side by side, because space was limited and meat was convenient. But then you look down. A small, fuzzy creature emerges from a crack in the stone. It stretches, it shakes, it chirps, and it waddles directly toward your foot and stops, resting its tiny body against your boot, seeking heat, offering heat. That's not convenience. That's instinct. That's kinship. You sit on a boulder and stare out over the valley. Far below, Cusco glints like a pocket of gold. The mountains surround you like silent giants. The wind roars, ancient and uncaring. But beside you, there's life. Small, fragile, determined. It's not that the Inca had to raise guinea pigs, it's that they noticed them, valued them, let them in. While empires in Europe built castles with moats and walls, the Inca built warmth with whiskers. They didn't separate from nature, they curled up beside it. And tonight, as you descend back into the fading light, with wind biting your ears and lungs tight with altitude, you start to feel the cold creeping in again. You imagine yourself crawling into a stone hut, lying down on a straw mat, and waiting for the squeaks, for the rustles, for the quiet, humble warmth of 100 tiny heartbeats. You're lying flat now, not because you're tired, though you absolutely are, but because someone insisted. You have to feel it, they said, from their level. So here you are, face down on a straw mat, ear pressed against the floor, surrounded by guinea pigs. They're everywhere. To your left, a trio nestled together, forming a warm, slow-breathing bundle. To your right, one stands like a sentry, sniffing cautiously before squeaking and waddling off. Behind you, there's the unmistakable sound of tiny claws scratching wood, and in front, a very determined little Kai trying to investigate your nose. It's not weird. Okay, it's a little weird. But as the minutes pass, you start to notice something else. You're getting warmer. Not metaphorically, physically. The heat is real, rising, persistent, creeping up your limbs like steam from underfloor heating. But without the electricity bill. This isn't an accident. It's thermodynamics in fur. Guinea pigs, you learn, are little furnaces. Their average body temperature hovers around PAC to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 40 degrees Celsius higher than humans. That means every time one sidles up next to you, it's like being pressed by a warm, whispering marshmallow with legs. And when you have dozens, well, congratulations. You've just constructed a living radiator. You sit up, intrigued, and start watching. They move in patterns, not quite random, not quite organized, more like heat-seeking particles in a fuzzy physics experiment. They gravitate toward warmth, the hearth, sun-warmed floor tiles, pots recently removed from fire, and they cluster, always in clusters, like cotton balls that forgot they were individuals. A woman notices your fascination and chuckles. She grabs a wooden bowl and scatters bits of potato peel and herbs on the floor. Instantly, the room shifts. Guinea pigs emerge from cracks, corners, shadows. Some you could have sworn weren't there 5 seconds ago. The temperature rises again, not dramatically but noticeably. You hold out your palm, curious. One of them walks across it, pauses, and settles down. Your skin reacts immediately. It's like a hand warmer you didn't have to shake into action. You glance at your guide, who just grins and says something you interpret as, "Told you." But warmth isn't just about heat, it's also about habits. These animals don't just radiate, they maintain. They find warm zones, rest, and return to them like biological thermostats. They recognize routines. They know where the fire is, where the mats are, where the sleeping humans like to sprawl. And they follow the heat. Some even say, and you can't confirm this, but it's too charming not to believe, that the smartest guinea pigs learn your favorite spot before you do. There's a child napping near the door, a colorful shawl draped across their chest. 5 guinea pigs are lined up along their legs like fuzzy commas in a bedtime sentence. The child snores. One guinea pig shifts, yawns, and dozes off again. You lean closer and hear it, that soft, breathy hum, not a purr, not a chirp, something in between, like the audio equivalent of a lullaby whispered in Morse code. It's the sound of safety, of peace, of 104 degrees Fahrenheit contentment. It's hard to believe now, but some colonial visitors were scandalized by this setup. Rodents in the home. They gasped, clutching their powdered wigs underfoot. In beds, sharing food. One Spanish priest wrote that the Inca homes were infested with vermin. Vermin, he called them. But that same priest also described how those vermin allowed families to survive blizzards, frostbite, famine. He just didn't connect the dots. The Inca did. They saw utility where others saw pests. They saw warmth where others saw clutter. They understood that sometimes survival doesn't come in grand gestures, but in a heartbeat. At 6 inches long and slightly squeaky, you're handed a small woven pouch. Inside are 2 baby Kai twins, maybe barely larger than apples, soft as fog. Their warmth seeps into your fingers like a secret. You realize, with a strange sense of wonder, that you're holding two live heat packs with eyes. You ask your guide a question. Did they ever give them names? He nods. Of course, the good ones, the clever ones, the clever ones. Not all Kai were anonymous. Some were cherished, not as pets exactly, but as partners. A grandmother might save her favorite one for her coldest nights. A child might cry when a particularly loyal little buddy was sacrificed. Because yes, warmth or not, they were still food. That duality is hard to sit with. Like falling asleep next to a friend who might become stew next week. But to the Inca, it wasn't cruelty, it was balance, respect you didn't waste. You didn't forget the comfort they gave. And when the time came, you cooked them gently, with herbs and care, like thanking them for their service. There's even a whispered tale you overhear, likely apocryphal, but irresistible, of a healer who claimed a Kai that slept beside a fevered man for 2 nights, never moving, never squeaking, and then died. The man recovered. A miracle. Maybe it was just warm blood, shared in the coldest moment. The Kai were never just livestock, they were heat, health, hope. They were little anchors against the cold tides of Andean night. And now, as the sun begins its lazy slide behind the stone terraces, and the house fills again with soft rustles and rhythmic squeaks, you realize this part of history isn't boring at all, it's breathing. Smoke curls through the air like lazy ink in water. You're in the kitchen now, though calling it a kitchen feels too modern, too sterile. This is more like a living hearth, a breathing corner of the house where fire, food, ash, and animals mingle in a warm and ancient mess. The floor is dirt, the walls are soot-streaked, and the ceiling is low enough that taller visitors like you learn very quickly to duck or live with scalp shame that smells. Layered first, the earthiness, dry straw, old clay, the must of stone that's weathered more winters than you've had birthdays. Then the smoke, not acrid but rich, woody, like someone's slowly toasting the entire mountain range. Next, the food, root vegetables mostly, charred maize, herbs you can't name but feel in your sinuses, and threading through it all, something faintly rodent, why not gross, just unexpected. The ghost of guinea pigs present. This is the center of the home, not just in layout and life, and everyone's here. A grandmother stirs a bubbling pot, with a stick as long as your arm. A child turns sweet potatoes on the coals. A young man shuffles a flat stone across the embers, brow furrowed like a master chef crafting the perfect ancient tortilla. And underneath it all, literally under the wooden platforms, stone pots, and woven baskets, the guinea pigs. They move quietly, threading between legs, circling the warm spots like orbiting satellites. One sits directly under the cooking pot, eyes half closed as if enjoying a personal sauna. Another is curled against a still warm rock pulled from the fire earlier. You spot 3 more under a basket, likely snacking on vegetable scraps someone intentionally dropped. This isn't a kitchen with pets, this is a symbiotic ecosystem. You begin to understand the brilliance. The fire warms the room, yes, but the guinea pigs retain that warmth, like living embers. The dropped food doesn't become waste, it becomes calories. The creatures get fed, stay healthy, and in return, they keep the kitchen's temperature just a little higher. The floor a little more alive, the space a little less cold. Do you ask your guide if anyone ever got annoyed by the guinea pigs, or the squeaking, the skittering, the occasional surprise poop underfoot? He shrugs. You learn where to step. A simple answer, a practiced one. You suspect it's been passed down like a recipe, along with, don't grab the pot from the side, and, never drink the chicha with the frog in it. Long story, we'll get there. You sit down on a woven mat, knees pulled in, watching the choreography unfold. The old woman ladles something into a cracked bowl and hands it to you. It's warm, orange, smells like corn and firewood. You sip thick, gritty comfort, like drinking a hug from someone wearing too much wool. A guinea pig climbs into your lap. It's unexpected, a little bold but not unpleasant. You feel its warmth instantly, a pulse of heat through your thighs. It shifts a little, circles twice like a tiny furry dog, and settles. You glance at the grandmother. She nods, entirely unfazed. They know, she says softly, in Quechua, when you're cold. You're not sure if she means physically or spiritually, but honestly, both feel accurate. There's a strange calm here, a rhythm. The fire crackles, the pot bubbles, the guinea pigs squeak in slow bursts, like popcorn that's realized it doesn't need to perform. Everyone is doing something, even the animals. You begin to realize that in Inca kitchens, work and warmth were inseparable. You didn't just cook in the kitchen, you lived there. You slept, joked, schemed, mourned, and raised children. And guinea pigs. Sometimes all at once. Historians still argue about the exact architectural role of kai in these spaces. Were kitchens designed for them? Were floors deliberately uneven, leaving shallow dips for them to nest? Were hearths built low to radiate across the ground rather than just upward? Some say yes, others claim it's speculation. That the guinea pigs simply adapted, took over the warmest room, and humans never complained. But if you stay long enough, feel the pulse of the place, you understand. This wasn't tolerance, it was integration. The guinea pigs weren't just allowed in the kitchen, they were part of the kitchen. Some families even trained them to respond to clapping or whistles, not tricks. Just practical communication. 1 clap, come eat. 2 claps, time to hide. Someone's visiting. 3. Dinner time for you or someone else. It depends on the day. And yes, food and guinea pigs were deeply intertwined. You learned that nothing went to waste. The scraps from cooking became kai snacks. In turn, the droppings fertilized rooftop herb gardens or were dried and saved as backup fire starters. Talk about renewable resources. There's even a fascinating bit of local wisdom passed between cooks. If the guinea pig stops squeaking during prep, the food will be bland. Superstition, maybe. Or maybe kai are just really good at detecting dull seasoning. You chuckle at that thought as the one in your lap shifts again and lets out a lazy little chirp. You stroke its back without thinking. Its fur is surprisingly coarse, its body firm, and under your hand you feel it. That tiny fast heartbeat, alive, present, useful. You think of your own kitchen back home. The humming fridge, the tile floor, the absence of squeaks. It suddenly feels lonely. Here, even silence has layers. As dusk begins to stretch its long fingers across the mountain, the fire dims. The family prepares for the evening. Mats are unrolled, clay pots are covered. They gather slowly like drawn to gravity. They cluster near the warm coals, near sleeping spaces. Near you it's not dramatic, it's just life. One long, unbroken rhythm between fire, breath, and tiny feet. You close your eyes and in the last moments before sleep, the kitchen exhales, all of it as if saying, this is how we've always done it. You're standing in a clearing dusted with frost, and the breath in your lungs looks like smoke. The mountains tower around you like frozen gods, their peaks brushed in silver from the pale sun. Drums echo off the stone like heartbeats, low, steady, ancient. And just ahead, a line of women in bright shawls are cradling bundles in their arms. Not babies. Guinea pigs. You blink. You look again. Still guinea pigs, some wrapped in scraps of woven cloth. Some tucked gently into the front folds of poncho. One even wears what appears to be a tiny woolen hat, hand-stitched, and unless your eyes deceive you, decorated with beads. You've arrived at the Watakusi, the winter festival of warmth and rebirth, held in the darkest days of the year. It's not an Inca holiday you've read about in textbooks. This one lives in memory, breath, and muscle, not in marble carvings, but in song and squeak. The festival begins as many things in the Andes do, with a fire, a massive one, built slowly, ceremonially. No matches here, just flint, patience, and tradition. As the flames catch, the people begin to circle. Some hum, some clapped, some stamped their feet in rhythms passed down longer than anyone remembers. And all the while those kai remain nestled in cloth, peeking out with eyes wide and calm like they've done this every winter for centuries. You join the circle. The ground is hard, the wind is cruel, but something about the warmth in the people's movements, in their voices and the literal warmth of the guinea pigs against their chests, makes it all feel softer, bearable. This isn't just ceremony, it's strategy. Winter in the Andes is not cute, it's not scarves and snowflakes, it's biting, lingering, bone deep. Crops freeze, rivers slow, children cough more. And so, this festival isn't just about joy, it's about persistence, about holding on, huddling close, and making the cold feel a little less alone. You watch as an elder steps into the fire's light. He holds up a guinea pig, not high and dramatic but close to his heart. He murmurs something soft. The circle falls quiet. The flames crackle, and for a moment the entire mountain range seems to listen. Then he lowers the animal, kisses its head, and lets it curl back into a shawl. Someone starts to sing. The lyrics make no sense to your ears, but the melody feels like home, rising and falling like breath, like heartbeat, like something small and steady keeping you alive through the longest night. Later there's food. Of course there is. Roasted corn, fermented maize drink, flatbread cooked on stone. And yes, guinea pig. You're offered a skewer, golden brown, sizzling, seasoned with herbs. It feels strange even now. The same animal being held like a baby is now plated like an offering. But again here, there is no contradiction. The people here don't separate. Use from affection. You can cherish something and consume it. You can be grateful and hungry. It's balance, not cruelty. Reverence through nourishment. You sit near the fire and watch a group of children gather with their own kai. They've fashioned tiny sleds from bark and string. The guinea pigs, unimpressed, sit stoically as the children drag them gently in circles, giggling. One girl whispers into her kai's ear, and you swear the little guy nods. These animals are companions, heat sources, jokes, meals, lullabies. They're everything all at once. The night deepens. Stars spill across the sky, like spilled flour. The wind shifts, bringing with it a fresh bite of ice. You pull your blanket tighter. A woman notices. Without a word, she lifts one of her guinea pigs wrapped in soft alpaca wool and sets it gently in your lap. It stays. Its warmth spreads almost immediately. Belly to your thighs, tiny claws against your leg. Breathing so fast, so alive, that it feels like you've absorbed a living ember. You murmur a thank you. She nods and says, something you think means, now you're one of us. It's not a big moment. It doesn't need to be. Sometimes survival isn't a declaration, it's a whisper, a squeak, a soft body in your lap during the longest night of the year. The drums start again, low, steady, like footsteps on snow, or maybe heartbeats. You close your eyes. Kai still warm against your chest, and listen. You don't need to understand every word, every symbol, every rule. You just need to be here, still breathing, holding the warmth that holds you back. And you wonder how many winters have these people endured like this? Not with riches, not with roaring fires, but with song, shawls, and tiny hearts beating beside their own. You don't know. But tonight, it's enough. You'll sleep by firelight, you'll keep this warmth close, and in the morning, you'll follow the squeaks. Morning comes quietly, no alarm, no phone vibration, just the slow rustle of fabric, the sigh of straw, the gentle whit of guinea pig feet padding across a dirt floor. The fire has gone cold. The embers sleep now, but the room is already warm, not from sunlight, not from breath, but from motion. Dozens of kai, each radiating their tiny, relentless heat, like embers with whiskers. Today, you're heading into what you might call the Inca R&D department, not for stonework, not for astronomy, but for something even more critical in the daily lives of highland families. Guinea pig management. Let's be honest. You might not expect sophisticated and guinea pig breeding to share a sentence, but the Inca were no fools. When your heating system walks, squeaks, and occasionally poops in your soup, you want the best version of it possible. You don't just let it happen. You optimize. You begin your morning tour at the edge of a hillside village, where a stone courtyard opens into a series of low-walled pens. They're not cages, not even fenced, just shallow compartments, laid out like rows of fuzzy garden plots. Each holds a small herd of kai. Some nap, some eat, some, to your awkward surprise, are very much in the middle of continuing their lineage. The keeper of these little kingdoms is a man with weathered hands and a face like a half-carved mask. He grins when he sees your face wrinkle at the squeaks of intimacy. You have to keep them happy, he says, or they stop being warm. That sounds like a proverb or a t-shirt slogan, but he's right. You learn that Inca families selected their guinea pigs carefully. Not just any kai could pass down genes. No, the warmest ones, the cuddlers, the quiet ones, the ones who didn't nip at your ankle mid-dream. Those were the prized breeders. Color mattered too. Pure white was seen as sacred, often reserved for ritual. Jet black, rare, sleek, and mysterious, was associated with the unknown. Spotted kai, popular for both stew and snuggling. You suspect someone once gave one a name like Snoozle or Hot Potato, but sadly, the records remain silent. More fascinating, the architecture of their little homes. These weren't just hay piles or overturned baskets. The breeding chambers were often built from clay, shaped like mini huts, cool in summer, warm in winter. Some were even elevated slightly to avoid flooding or overly curious dogs. You crouch and peer inside one. Its immaculate straw bed, clay water bowl, a curved ceiling to trap warmth. If you were 4 inches tall and fur-covered, this would be a penthouse. And yes, there were guinea pig dating strategies. The keeper explains that males are rotated carefully, never left too long with one group. Too much dominance leads to fights. Too little attention, discontent. It's a fuzzy balancing act, and you realize this is livestock with a personal life. One trick that catches your eye involves water bowls. Simple, shallow clay dishes filled each morning and placed in the corners of the pens, but not for hydration. No. These are temperature gauges. If the water freezes overnight, The keeper knows to double the Kai clustering zones. Add more straw. Block the wind. If the water stays still and clear, the pigs are on their own. It's like a living thermostat system. With ears, there's also the matter of flooring. You're shown a floor made from alternating layers of straw, ash, and packed earth. The ash absorbs moisture and odor. The straw traps heat. And the guinea pigs, they add the final layer themselves. This system isn't random, it's generational engineering. You start to wonder if somewhere deep in the Andes lies a lost Inca blueprint titled optimal fuzz-based thermal distribution volume. Even the feeding routines were precise. Guinea pigs were often fed in specific corners of the home, drawing them to the warmer areas during cold hours. Smart, efficient, warm Kai equals warm people. And it wasn't all science. There was belief too. You hear of women whispering to pregnant guinea pigs, asking for healthy litters during cold months. Children singing to newborns to keep them calm. One old woman swears that playing flute softly in the morning makes the guinea pigs sleep closer together. You want to laugh, but then she demonstrates. And when she plays, you swear the entire pen huddles just a bit tighter. Some claim that Kai can predict weather if they cluster near the door. Snow's coming if they bury themselves under straw. Frost if they squeak non-stop for an hour. Earthquake or someone forgot to feed them. Either way, you listen still. As always, historians argue. Some say these systems were just practical, not intentional. That maybe the Inca didn't design this, they stumbled into it. But you're not so sure. It takes one night in a freezing stone room, cuddling a sentient hot potato, to realize someone figured this out, and they passed it on. And someone else built a chamber. Someone taught a child which guinea pig to pick for breeding, and which to hold against your ribs during a windstorm. This wasn't an accident, this was survival. You end the morning watching. A line of children carry fresh straw to the pens. Their hands are pink from cold, but their faces are bright. They take turns placing the straw carefully, gently, as if tucking in the animals for an afternoon nap. You crouch and do the same. Tiny Kai sniffs your wrist, stares, then curls up against your thumb. It trusts you, maybe, probably because you're warm. The hut is darker than the rest. It breathes differently. The light that filters in through the thatch is thin and dust-heavy, like a memory trying not to fade. You step over the threshold, and immediately the air changes heavier, stiller, tinged with a mix of burnt herbs, clay dust, and something faintly metallic. This is not a kitchen. This is not a sleeping room. This is the curandero's hut, the place where sickness is coaxed out, where unseen things are named, and where guinea pigs, of all creatures, are called upon to see what the human eye cannot. You sit on a woven mat, and your guide leans in close, his voice lowered, almost reverent. Here, he says, the Kai becomes the mirror. You're not sure what he means until you see it. The curandero enters, an elder, bent by time but sharp as flint behind the eyes. He carries a cloth bundle. He speaks softly to it as he unwraps it, and there, curled up and blinking in the sudden dimness, is a snow-white guinea pig. Fluffy, still. Calm. The elder walks toward a young woman seated across from you. She looks pale, weary. Something clings to her like a fog that hasn't lifted. The elder doesn't ask questions, doesn't take a pulse. Instead, he cradles the Kai and begins to gently rub it along her body from head to toe. Slowly, methodically, whispering prayers in Quechua with every pass. This isn't some theatrical gesture. It's precise. The Kai is watching, listening, absorbing. You think, at first, this is just symbolism, metaphor, but everyone in the room is silent, watching as if something real is happening, something serious. When the ritual ends, the elder nods, and then he does something that catches your breath. He places the guinea pig on the mat. He opens a small obsidian blade, and with a prayer, a steady hand and no hesitation, he cuts it open. The room doesn't flinch. This is not cruelty. This is revelation. The curandero examines the animal's organs carefully. Liver, lungs, heart, he mutters, points, shows a darkened spot near the kidneys, another near the intestines. Then he turns to the young woman, and in a quiet, calm voice says, "You've been carrying grief. Deep in your stomach it must come. Pout, you're stunned." She begins to cry, not loud, not dramatic, just a soft release, like a kettle finally allowed to sigh. And suddenly, the hut doesn't feel so still. It feels empty. Later, outside, you ask your guide, did they really believe the guinea pig took on the illness? He looks at you, shrugs. They didn't believe, he says. They knew. This practice, called limpia con Kai, has roots deep in the Andes. Some say it goes back before the Inca, to even older peoples who believed that illness wasn't just in the body. It could hide in the soul, the bones, the shadow of a person. And guinea pigs, warm and innocent, could draw it out. like little sponges of sorrow. In modern terms, you might call it psychosomatic healing. You might cite the placebo effect, or catharsis, or even community-based emotional processing. But to the people here, it's truth. You hear more stories of the boy who couldn't walk until a Kai showed the spirit holding his knees closed, the woman who lost her voice after her husband died, then regained it after the curandero found cold lodged in her chest, mirrored in a swollen guinea pig lung, a farmer whose nightmares ceased after a Kai was buried under a full moon, carrying the haunting with it. And of course, the debates raged. Modern doctors roll their eyes. Scientists demand double-blind studies. Anthropologists scribble notes and murmur fascinating. But in the high Andes, no one's waiting for peer review, because here's the thing. It works. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough to matter. And maybe it's not about the guinea pig at all. Maybe it's about being seen, having your pain made visible, having someone hold it, examine it, honor it, even if that someone is a small, furry creature with a heartbeat twice as fast as yours. You ask if the guinea pigs are ever reused. Your guide shakes his head no. 1 soul per Kai. It's a sacred transaction. Once the energy is taken on, the guinea pig is honored in death, sometimes buried, sometimes consumed in a ceremonial meal, as if, in absorbing your suffering, it became something holy, a sacrifice, a warmth that passed through you, then into the earth. You walk away from the hut slowly. The wind catches your sleeve. The mountains feel bigger again. You think about all the ways humans have tried to understand suffering. Therapy, journals, screaming into pillows. And here, they just listen to the squeaks. You've been in the Andes long enough now that the altitude doesn't bother you quite so much. Your breath still clouds in the morning, but you don't wheeze. Your feet, once hesitant on these uneven stone paths, now land with quiet confidence. And the guinea pigs. You no longer flinch when one brushes your ankle. You've even started naming them in your head. That one with the black ears, definitely Greg. The chubby one who follows you around at lunch. Sweet potato. You try not to get attached, but it's hard. Turns out the Inca didn't try either. You're sitting outside with an elderly woman named Mama Il. Her hands move constantly, weaving, folding, stirring something in a clay pot. But her eyes, when they rest on the guinea pigs circling near her feet, soften like morning mist. She points with her chin to one, a golden brown Kai sunbathing, on a flat stone. That one, she says, is warmest, sleeps on my chest when my bones hurt. She pauses. He has a name, Cantu. You smile and say nothing because something in her voice says this isn't just a pet, it's something else. Something deeper. All around the highlands. You've seen how Kai are woven quite literally into the fabric of daily life. They're embroidered on blankets, carved into door lintels, whispered about in lullabies. But here, with Mama Ilari, you start to understand what it feels like to live with them, not above them, not over them, with them. She tells you stories about when she was a girl, and her favorite Kai, a little one with white feet and a black face, used to sneak inside her bedroll every night and sleep against her stomach. She swears she never caught a cold that winter. About the one her brother lost in a river during a storm, and how they lit candles for it like it was a cousin. About the one who refused to eat for days. After her husband died, you glance down at Cantu. He's moved closer to her lap now, half asleep, his breathing so even it almost rocks your own. This isn't romanticism. It isn't a Disney movie. These animals still end up on the fire. No one hides that. But the bond that forms in between those quiet, shared winters, those squeaks of welcome when you come home, that's real. And when a beloved Kai dies, whether by age or by ceremony, it's not forgotten. Mama Ilari opens a small cloth pouch beside her and shows you something. A tuft of fur, wrapped in wool, kept near her sleeping mat. Cantu's brother, she says, warmest of all, carried him for months before he became soup. You're not sure how to respond, so you just sit. And she doesn't need you to say anything, because here's the quiet truth that floats up in these mountains. Love and loss are not always separate from utility. You can love something and still need it. You can honor something and still eat it. That tension, sharp and soft at once, lives in every part of this world. You learn about the quiet rituals families use when a Kai dies, especially a favorite. Some bury them under flat stones, marked by wildflowers. Others place offerings, bits of sweet potato, dried maize, the stem of a herb the Kai once liked to chew. Some children draw their likeness in the ash beside the fire, their own form of goodbye, and yes, sometimes they're eaten. But even then, it's never casual. They're cooked with care, shared in silence, remembered, not mourned in the loud, tearing way of cities, but acknowledged. held a warm absence. You ask a boy named Tupac how many guinea pigs his family keeps. He shrugs. Maybe 40. Then he adds, but 6 of them are important. Important. He points. That one listens. That one knows when I'm sad. That one he giggles. Pees in the corner so I don't have to clean too much. You realize that, over time, each family develops its own quiet language with its kai, a shorthand of chirps and whistles, of gestures and glances, a domestic rhythm you'd never notice unless you are watching closely. And you are, so you do. You see a woman pat her chest twice, a signal for a guinea pig to come nest in her poncho. See a child snap her fingers near a rock, and to kai immediately scurry beneath it, their safe zone. You see a man cluck his tongue while roasting maize, and a guinea pig waddles up expecting its share. He breaks the piece in half. First bite is his. The man says, he's old. You ask his name. He shrugs. We just call him Abuelo. There's no pedestal here, no golden shrine, just mutual existence. Warmth shared. Sorrow folded into routine, no fanfare when they go. But a gap, a real one. Some families believe that when a kai passes away, its warmth doesn't vanish. It lingers in the bedding, in the stones, in the creases of the poncho it once curled beneath. Some even claim that if your room feels especially cold one night, it's because a beloved kai has returned, not in body, but in echo. You don't know if that's true, but later, that evening, as you lie down in a quiet corner of a stone house, under a sky stuffed with stars, a small furry weight settles beside your thigh. You didn't call it, but it came anyway. It breathes, it squeaks once, barely, and falls asleep, and the night is just a little less cold. The wind tonight carries something different. It still whistles between the stone walls, still combs through the thatch roof like an old man scratching his scalp. But there's a softness to it now, not gentler exactly, but less desperate. The kind of chill that makes you pull your blanket closer, not question if you're going to survive the night. Winter is ending. You feel it in the ground. The ice doesn't bite quite as deep. The stones you sit on at midday hold heat a few minutes longer. The sun lingers just a bit before slipping behind the jagged spines of the Andes. And the guinea pigs, they feel it too. They're bolder, faster, their single quotes ask more chasing, more squeaking. Fewer little fuzzy bodies curled up in tight circles like sleepy donuts. The house hums differently now, not hibernation, anticipation, and as the final frost approaches, so does something else, a feast. You hear about it first, in whispers. Then, in the slow gathering of herbs, the sorting of potatoes, the gentle cleaning of certain kai with cloth and warm water. Not all of them, just some. The selected ones. You want to ask if they know, if they sense what's coming. But when you look into their wide, still eyes, you can't tell. They sniff your finger, as always. They twitch their ears. One even nuzzles your boot like he's done every morning for a week. Now they trust you. And your stomach knots because you know what's next. The last meal of winter isn't morbid here. It's not treated with sadness or shadow. It's a celebration, a sacred exhale after months of tension. The Inca understood the power of marking transitions. They didn't just wait for change. They cooked it, sang to it, and ate it with their hands. You're invited, of course. Everyone is. This isn't a private ceremony, it's communal, a release. And it starts, as all things do here, with fire. The hearth is fed with dry roots, the kind that smell sharp when they burn. Smoke spirals upward, chased by the scent of crushed herbs and sizzling fat. Flat stones are placed in a ring over the embers. Clay pots bubble with stew, and in the center the cuy.golden.crisped. Still shaped like themselves. It hits you hard the first time, seeing their tiny paws still curled, their ears blackened slightly at the tips. You look around, expecting tears. There are none. But there is reverence. Before the first bite, people pause. Some speak the names of the animals aloud. Others whisper under their breath. One child closes his eyes and presses his hand to his heart. You follow suit. The taste, familiar by now, rich, oily, infused with wild garlic and some spice that prickles the edges of your tongue. But that's not what you remember later. You remember the silence that followed, a silence not of mourning but of digestion, of thought, of thank you. This is how the Inca honored their warmth, by remembering it even as it nourished them, not a contradiction, a completion. After the meal, bones are carefully gathered. Some are burned, some are buried, a few are hung in woven bags. From the rafters, near where the kai used to sleep. Why, you ask? A woman smiles, so their warmth doesn't wander. You stay up late that night, listening, not for squeaks but for absence. It comes gently like the first night. You sleep without a heavy blanket and don't wake up cold. You watch families clean the floors, fold the bedding, scrub the food bowls. The straw is swept, new dirt is packed, the pens are aired, and slowly, space is made again for the next generation. New Kai arrive in the coming days, tiny ones, pink-nosed and wide-eyed. The cycle begins anew. Babies under baskets, warm bodies near knees. But for now there is a lull, a pause, and in that pause, you feel the depth of what just passed. You think about the ones who shared your bedroll, the one who curled up in your hood, the one who liked to nap behind the cooking pot. You don't cry, but when you lie down that night, the space beside you feels large. You wrap your poncho tighter. The fire crackles, and in that space, the warmth lingers just a little longer. You hear the horses before you see them, not just hooves, shoes, iron on stone, loud, deliberate, unfamiliar. The rhythm is too perfect, too clean, too wrong. You're used to the quiet scuffle of sandaled feet, the soft patter of guinea pigs, the whisper of straw being swept in circles. But this is different. The Inca were no strangers to footsteps. They'd heard armies march. They'd built roads to move faster than empires. But this sound, European boots, metal horseshoes, the creak of unfamiliar leather was the beginning of something that wouldn't leave quietly. The Spanish had arrived at first. They were amused, bemused even. Rodents underfoot, squeaking, animals in the kitchens. The conquistadors didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Some did both. A few claimed the homes were infested. Others crossed themselves and whispered about pagan rituals, but one of them, an officer, gaunt and sunburned, lifted a roasted guinea pig from a serving plate and said, in what you imagine was a very tired voice, "I've eaten worse." And so began Europe's awkward introduction to the to the Inca. It was nothing new. The Spanish had strange ideas about what was civilized. They polished their armor, yet didn't understand terraces. They brought guns but feared the wind. And when it came to guinea pigs, they were clearly lost. They didn't know how to hold them. Didn't know not to squeeze the sides. Didn't know that if a Kai squeaks high and fast, it's not singing, it's cursing you out in rodentese still. Curiosity outweighed disgust. Some soldiers took them as curiosities like living trinkets. Others noticed the warmth, especially in highland posts where even the fire seemed to give up before sunrise. And so, slowly, awkwardly, a few Kai made their way into Spanish hands. They were carried in cloth satchels, sometimes stuffed into saddlebags, fed scraps tucked under cloaks. At first they were called conejillos de Indias, little Indian rabbits, then just conejillos, then guinea pigs. Once the trade routes twisted their names beyond recognition. The irony, for part, all their complaints. The Spanish couldn't ignore one fact. They worked, that is, they were warm. Soldiers stationed at mountain outposts began to hold them under their armor, or against their chest inside heavy coats. Some reports buried in dusty ledgers, never meant for public eyes, described an uncanny comfort in the presence of the creatures. One priest reportedly kept two in his writing desk to warm his hands while preparing sermons. Even conquest needs heating solutions. But still, they never quite understood to them. The Kai was novel, maybe even useful, but never sacred, never kin. They saw a snack, a heater, at best, an exotic gift to bring back to Europe for noblemen to raise in gardens like miniature livestock. Back in the Andes, the arrival of the Spanish meant more than misnamed rodents. Homes were raided, temples looted, rituals banned, fires doused, but the guinea pigs remained. They weren't threatening. They weren't holy enough to be outlawed, just there, scuttling underfoot, hiding in shadows, warming the same tired bones as before. A resistance not of violence but of persistence. The Spanish mocked the practice of sleeping with animals. They called it primitive, and yet, come winter, more than one Spaniard reached for a Kai without admitting why. That's the funny thing about warmth, it humbles you. You sit now in a room once occupied by both empires, Inca stonework below, Spanish tile above. It's a strange, uneasy marriage, two worlds stacked, not quite touching. But in the corner, a basket of guinea pigs, still here, still warm. One waddles toward you, a descendant of 100 generations of quiet service. You reach out, it sniffs your fingers, then, slowly, climbs into your lap and settles. You wonder what the Spanish would have thought, watching a foreigner sit in the ruins of their conquest, holding the same animal they once misunderstood. Probably confusion, maybe envy, because the guinea pig never chose sides. It didn't care about gold, or language, or maps drawn by hands that never touched stone. It only cared about warmth and giving it to whoever needed it. It's hard to imagine a guinea pig on a ship, but they were, tucked into crates between spices and silver. nestled among coca leaves and copper trinkets, curled in little wooden boxes carried by sailors who'd grown attached or merchants who'd seen a market for novelty. The voyage from Peru to Spain was long, cramped, and cruel. For humans, it meant disease, thirst, months without land. For guinea pigs, less terrible. They didn't eat much. They didn't bite. They didn't scream when the ship groaned in a storm. And more importantly, they stayed warm. Sailors kept them tucked into shirt fronts, under blankets, even in boots. One bored young ensign reportedly tied ribbons around the necks of his 3 favorite kai and paraded them around deck for coins. When one escaped during a squall and scampered below deck, the captain ordered the entire crew to search, not because he cared, but because it had kept morale from mutiny for 5 days straight. By the time the first guinea pigs landed in Europe, they were already more than livestock. They were survivors. Historians suggest the earliest documented kai in Europe appeared in Spain and Portugal in the mid-1500s. Within a few decades they were in France. By 1600, they had reached England, where things took a curious turn. In the courts of Elizabeth I, guinea pigs became the must-have exotic pet. Forget parakeets or lapdogs. You weren't fashionable unless you had a Peruvian marmot curled up in your cloak or nibbling lettuce from your ivory plate. Nobles showed them off at feasts. They were drawn in portraits, perched like tiny rodent tiaras atop satin pillows. The painter George Stubbs even immortalized them, round-eyed, stiff-legged, confused by the powdered wigs. You imagine a guinea pig sitting in a lace-trimmed cradle, staring at a duke with a ruff the size of a dinner plate and thinking, this is not cusco. And yet they endured. Not as food. That horrified the Europeans. Rodents, they gasped. Disgusting. This, mind you, from people who ate eels and jelly. No, in Europe, guinea pigs became entertainment. And slowly, through the centuries, they filtered into homes, into parlors, into laboratories. Yes, laboratories. Because what do you do with a small, docile animal that doesn't bite, breeds quickly, and stays calm under pressure? You test things on it. The phrase guinea pig became a metaphor long before animal rights campaigns caught up. By the 1800s, they were fixtures in scientific studies, not just in Europe, but around the world. From nutrition experiments to disease research, guinea pigs became the unsung heroes of modern medicine. You sit with that for a moment. An animal once worshipped, slept beside, whispered to during sacred rituals, now wearing a number tag in a sterile cage, and yet they adapted. They always do. Somehow they never lost their warmth. A child in 1890s Paris might have held a guinea pig in her lap and giggled at its soft squeaks, never knowing her ancestors once feared the Andes. A boy in 1930s Chicago might have built a shoebox castle for his guinea pig, completely unaware it was descended from empire-heating royalty. And today, you could walk into a pet store in Tokyo, Buenos Aires, or Toronto and find them still squeaking, still soft, still warm. Their purpose has shifted. No longer co-heaters of winter kitchens, no longer spiritual thermometers or Highland healers. Now, they're companions, class pets, YouTube stars, objects of affection with names like Pickle, Muffin, and Sir Squeaks. But if you place one against your chest and wait, you'll feel it. That warmth, that heartbeat. Legacy, it's still there, in their stillness, in their quiet trust. You smile at the thought. Maybe the guinea pigs knew something we didn't. Maybe they've always known that being small doesn't mean being powerless, that staying warm is sometimes more important than winning, that the best way to survive 1,000 winters is to squeak softly, curl up close, and make yourself useful, a kind of resilience no empire could ever conquer. You're back in Peru now, not the one carved into legends, not the stone temples echoing with Inca footsteps, but the modern Peru. Motorbikes buzz, radios play reggaeton next to Quechua folk songs. Someone's grandmother scrolls Instagram with one hand and stirs a pot with the other. And still, beneath it all, like an old rhythm never forgotten, there they are, guinea pigs. You didn't expect it. You thought they'd be confined to museums, tucked into old stories. But no, step into almost any highland village, and some cities too, and the kai are still here. Still squeaking, still warm. They live under stoves, behind firewood, inside baskets beneath tables. Some run loose in courtyard kitchens, noses twitching, eyes bright. You see children scoop them up like plushes, cuddle them while watching cartoons. One boy you meet swears his guinea pig dances when it hears a soap opera intro. You think he's joking. Then you see it and okay, it's more of a twitch hoponic shuffle. But still, it counts. You walk through markets where rows of kai wait, some roasted to a crisp, others still alive, dozing in woven cages. It's jarring. Even now the dual identity, pet and plate, sacred and snack. And yet, people here don't blink. To them, a kai is part of the architecture of life. It sleeps beside you in winter. It feeds you during harvest festivals. It shows up in your TikTok feed wearing sunglasses. Yes, really, you're shown a viral clip, a guinea pig riding in a handcrafted cardboard taxi through the streets of Cusco, with Despacito blasting from a speaker taped to the roof. The comments, thousands laughing faces, heart emojis. One person wrote, "My abuela says this is how they should have carried out history." You realize doesn't always die. Sometimes it just puts on sunglasses. You meet a teenage girl named Elsie who runs an account called @CUYQueen. She has over 40,000 followers. Her content, dressing her guinea pigs in tiny hats and filming them taste-testing herbs. Her most popular video, a kai nibbling a sprig of mint and shaking its head in disgust, has over 3 million views. You ask her why she started. "My grandma used to sleep with kai to stay warm," she says. "Now I show them to the world." In her voice, there's no conflict between past and present. Just evolution. You visit a farm that breeds kai for both warmth and food, a hybrid operation where half the animals are destined for kitchens, and the other half are households that still practice the old ways. The owner, Senor Mateo, walks you through rows of elevated wooden pens, each labeled in Quechua and Spanish. Some are named. He picks one up, a thick golden-furred male. "This one sleeps under my bed. My wife steals him when her feet are cold," he chuckles, then adds, "She says he's warmer than me." The old rituals haven't disappeared. In mountain villages, you still find curanderos performing limpia wheat Guinea pigs, especially for children or elders too fragile for modern clinics. One woman tells you her infant wouldn't stop crying for weeks until a healer rubbed a kai along his tiny arms, then whispered a prayer. He slept through the night after that. Coincidence? Maybe, but here, belief is warmth. Even in cities you find traces. In a Lima apartment, someone's kai wears a custom hoodie. In a coastal town, a chef introduces kai confit served on white plates beside quinoa foam. The tourists are baffled. The locals are divided. You visit a small museum where a plaque reads the guinea pig, not just dinner, a partner in winter, in healing, in history. And that's it. Really, that's what you feel most now, that strange, enduring closeness. The guinea pig never asked to be sacred, never wanted a shrine, but it earned a place anyway. Not by force, or spectacle, or cleverness, but by staying, by curling up where it was needed, by outliving empires, crossing oceans, dodging forks and algorithms alike. You sit down beside a modern hearth, a gas stove this time, humming faintly. A guinea pig pads across the tile floor and presses itself to your foot. You reach down, pet it, feel that warmth, steady as always. And just for a moment, a blink, you forget the walls, the Wi-Fi, the headlines waiting in your pocket. You're back in that quiet mountain hut, the cold pressing outside, and this little squeak of life keeping you warm. The mountain is quiet again, not silent. No, the Andes are never truly silent, but the sounds are gentler now. The kind of quiet that happens after the last bowl is washed, after the fire has turned to embers, after the last little feet have scurried into their corners and curled into sleep. You're lying on your side near the hearth. The stones around you are warm from the long day's sun. The light flickers faintly, just a glow, not a flame. Outside, the wind rustles the straw roof with a slow, sleepy rhythm. The night is full of pauses. And beside you, always, a guinea pig breathes. Steady, small, present. You've followed this creature for a long way. From stone kitchens to royal courts, from mountain rituals to meme accounts. You've watched it squeak through sacred ceremonies, survive colonization, curl against ankles, hop through history without ever once trying to impress anyone. It never needed to, because the kai never chased power, only heat, only presence, only you in this final chapter. There's nothing left to learn, only to rest. The facts are done, the history's told. What remains now is a rhythm. The way your breath slows when you listen to tiny lungs rise and fall beside you. The way you adjust your blankets so they don't get caught. The way you no longer notice the smell of straw or smoke or warm, living fur. Because this is home now, or something like it. And the Inca, those brilliant stonecutters, those empire bearers, they knew. Maybe not in the way scientists know, but in the way that keeps people alive. They knew that warmth is not always found in the biggest fire. Sometimes, it lives in something small, humble, squeaky. You think about all the things we've built to stay warm. Furnaces, central heating, electric blankets, synthetic insulation. And yet here, in a stone house with no thermostat, you've never felt more held. Because here, in the hush of night. The guinea pig isn't a relic, it's a companion, a memory with whiskers, a furnace with feelings, and as your eyes start to flutter, your body softens, your breath deepens, you feel a final nuzzle at your side. Not demanding, not urgent, just checking. Are you warm enough? Are you still with me? You are. And so is it. The world blurs at the edges now. The stars shimmer above. The stones breathe beneath you. The past and present fold into one long, soft exhale. You're safe, you're warm, you're home.